The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog and join the Progressive Army.
See that coming. And now Serena's confused by the score being called out.
This is unbelievable. Every time I play here, I have problems. What? Yeah, that's a warning. I didn't get coaching. You need to make an announcement that I didn't get coaching. I don't cheat. I didn't get coaching. How can you say that? You owe me an apology. You owe me an apology. I have never cheated in my life. I have a daughter and I stand what's right for her and I've never cheated. And you owe me an apology. You will never do another one again.
I think she's more upset about the insinuation that she was cheating than anything else. I mean, she's strongly stood against that, and that's much more important to her than the 15 love for Osaka.
Yeah, no.
I wanted to start there today because that's generally where all of the media starts this story. They start where the height of Serena's voice when she said, "I've never cheated." That's where everyone is starting and calling it a meltdown. And they're leaving out, this part isn't surprising. They leave out the context. They leave out everything that led up to it. All of the ways that she communicated very politely. Not that she had to, which is ultimately the point of today's podcast. The expectations that are placed on black people, particularly black women, that I have witnessed firsthand on more occasions than I have not witnessed it. But before I get there, listen to all of the nice and pleasant ways, patient ways Serena disagreed with Carlos Ramos.
If he gives me a thumbs up, he's telling me to come on. We don't have any code, and I know you don't know that, and I understand why you may have thought that was coaching, but I'm telling you it's not. I don't cheat to win. I'd rather lose. I'm just like, that's not something I do. But I could understand why you may have thought that, but just know I've never cheated. Okay, thank you, because I'm like, I don't cheat. Yeah, so thank you so much.
All right, so there you go. I mean, it starts off her explaining what's going on from her perspective, his perspective. She acknowledges all this good stuff. I don't care about the particulars of what went down because I don't watch tennis enough to care to even know exactly what's what. But I will say this. The backlash from the media and the usual suspects is par for the course of what you would expect when it comes to angry black people. The number one thing you cannot afford to do in this blessed, I'm gonna use that word, this society is to show anger and be a person of African descent of any. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. If you have a moment where you show anger, everything else before that is erased and you are cast as an angry black person, an angry black woman, an angry black man. We have to go above and beyond and be measured in every situation, fair or not fair. Anything, any injustice that we see, we have to take hurdles. I mean, we have to go through hoops to make sure that the people who are committing things against us, the people who are committing these injustices are against us, we have to go above and beyond to make sure that we don't insult their sensibilities, that we don't make them uncomfortable. You know, this is the standard. This is the expectation that we go through all of our lives. In corporate settings, you have to make sure that every line of your email is something that can't be misconstrued as too aggressive. And in every meeting, you have to sit back and watch as incompetent people lead companies down the drain. And you have to just sit back and be polite, because if you speak up and actually call out the problem, then you're going to be seen as too aggressive. Right. And you become a problem. And God forbid you just throw caution to the wind and tell people what you really think. Well, I've been in a situation where they shut the entire company down when I did that. This is the reality of being a black person versus, you know, and actually let me give my experiences with it. And then and then we'll discuss other scenarios. But and this is not to make it about me. I just want to give you a story, an anecdote firsthand of my experiences. And then we could talk about it from a black woman's perspective, or talk about what black women experience, because I've seen firsthand how black women are stereotyped and how black women are limited and constrained by the fear of being perceived as an angry black woman. Because if you even as so much breathe too hard as a black woman, you're going to be described as an angry black woman, just like they did Serena. In context of everything that happened, Serena did not have a meltdown, but every newspaper this morning, even this racist, I'm not going to cuss today, this racist Australian newspaper that made Serena look like a Sambo, made her look like some kind of simultaneously a child, but simultaneously an aggressive, brutish looking black monster, and then completely whitewashing Osaka's Haitian heritage, drawing her as some just random white woman, when in actuality she's Haitian and Japanese. But I digress. I have every person. If you ask any black person, they've run into this. They've run into this because there's this belief of, you know what it is? It's deeply rooted in the vilification of black people throughout American history. It's like black people are perceived as bigger and more monstrous and more intimidating, even if you're 5'7" and the other person is like 6'4". When you raise your voice as a 5'7" short man, then the person who's 6'4" believes that it's an all-out assault on him or her, So anyway, I've been in a situation where I have sat in a meeting and a white employee was allowed to change the entire atmosphere of the entire company by yelling, by ranting, disagreeing with one of the owners of the company. I mean, making a scene, making his demands, making it seem as though nothing is going to work unless he got his way. And ultimately, they gave him his way. Time went by. All the, changes made in the company. I'm still there, and got into a situation where the owners we had a confrontation. I'll leave it at that. Had a confrontation, and I patiently did my best to handle that thing professionally. But when I realized that they wanted a confrontation, I decided to give them one and let them know what the real problem was. Those people shut the company down 2 weeks later. I mean, they lost out on all their investment because an angry black man had the nerve to challenge them. So, I mean, and that's just one anecdote. But there are millions of cases of this all around the world, particularly in this nation, where you have time and time again where black people's voices are constrained, because if you even as so much as hint at any type of dissatisfaction with what's going on around you, then you are instantly portrayed as an angry monster that is to be feared or tamed. Because ultimately, that's what they want. They want you to be in your place. And you know what else I've learned? I mean, so many things that are involved in this type of story. But another feature of it is the fact that they really do want your black excellence. They do. Because out of our struggle and adversity absolutely breeds greatness. I mean, it's not something that I want my children to have to go through. I would love for them to find their greatness without having to go through the adversity that I had to go through. But as a people, African Americans have had adversity throughout every stage of our lives. Some people less than others. Yes, there's some wealthy, well-to-do black people who probably don't have many struggles. But the fact of the matter is that across the board, our entire existence has been coming out of a struggle to get to something better. That's the story of Serena. That's the story of so many great athletes and great leaders that come from the black community. We're birthed and born in struggle, and then out of that, and even if it's nothing more than the struggle of poverty, merged with the struggle of being black and impoverished, right? We still have had to historically rise above all of the adversity in which we were born. And from that grows what we call black excellence. It is a thing. It's a thing in so much as like Mary McLeod Bethune, the matriarch of the university I attended, Bethune-Cookman University. She took like $2.10 and built an entire school out of that, obviously, in history, right? 100 years ago. Right? Stories like people who have nothing, but they built something. Madam C.J. Walker, from nothing, she built something. You look at all these people who went from not being able, during slavery, we were not allowed to read, but yet we've got by a fireside and learned to read and then became great orators and great writers, prolific writers. That's historically, but even now, people born into a society that requires an immense amount of capital to get anything started, and yet we are able to, and don't get me wrong, I'm sure other cultures have their narratives similar to this. This is not germane only to the African American community, but when you consider the percentage of African Americans that are born into poverty, of course these stories are going to be concentrated in the black community. And because of that, because there's greatness wrapped up in everybody, but when you're born into poverty, you learn how to make something great with less. I mean, that's literally the story of almost every successful black person out there. They had to make something great with less than anyone else had. Everyone else had more. They had more capital. They had more experience because they were able to get those internships, because they didn't need money right away because their parents were already wealthy. Everybody, these are the stories that are repeated every generation in the black community. And from that is birth black excellence. We do more with less because we had to. Literally my life story. Everything from web design to marketing to business plans to graphics to hell, I'll make the theme music if I need to make the theme music, down to writing the articles. I wrote the articles on the website that I built, and I marketed the website that I built, that I wrote the articles for, and I went viral and made, all these things. Every step of the way, we've had to do more with less, and still people look at us and they want that. They want that excellence. They just don't want it with the package that it comes in. And if you do come on board, you better watch your mouth. Watch your tone and keep your hands on the hood. If any of you can guess what that reference is, I'll send you a copy of my book. Watch your tone and keep your hands on the hood is essentially what is asked of us. Don't be autonomous. Don't be someone who's separate, above and beyond the people who are paying you, or the people who you're part of their organization, or don't be a threat. Never become a threat. Just give them all of your excellence and be quiet and go on about your day. We'll write you a pittance, I mean, and sometimes, I'm just, it's 10 o'clock at night. And these are the things that are on my mind that this video, what happened with Serena triggered. Because this is literally the story of so many black people around the country. Women run into this in general, but black women specifically, and black men specifically. And I find it funny because you're going to see a lot of white women, and I've seen it already. And I was looking for the video. There's like this Australian woman who was saying that, Serena should be ashamed of herself, and da da da. She brought her daughter into it. Da 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 da. I'm like, look, woman. Honestly, somebody on one of your jobs in the past has done the same exact thing to you, but You can't see it through the lens of Serena Williams because you, like the cartoon that was published in the Australian newspaper, see her as something less, simultaneously less, but also intimidating. You want black women to know their place, just like white men want white women to know their place. And the tragedy of it all is that white women go through this. And so it makes absolutely no sense, even though it perfectly aligns with history, but it still makes no sense for women who experience this at the hands of men, particularly white men, based on this power structure, to carry out, to do the same thing to black women that is done to them. But time and time again, we've seen through history that they are more than happy to do that. Oh, Ben, you're playing the race card. Shut the hell up. Unsubscribe, unfollow, whatever. Because this is the truth. This is literally what happens. Entire careers have been destroyed because a black person, a black woman, a black man had the nerve to speak up for themselves. And here they're doing it at the highest level of tennis. And I'm sitting back wondering, like, where does she go from here? Because, you know, she is the greatest of all time. But before I go down that train of thought, how absurd is it to even insinuate or believe that the greatest of all time had to cheat? See, this is the thing that's so offensive to her. The fact that you have the nerve to say in front of the entire world that you believe that I'm cheating. And it's like people are so all along the way. I can't even finish the sentence because it's been on so many occasions. They've tried to accuse her of cheating, of taking steroids, and they couldn't catch her on steroids. And so now they're saying she uses hand signals. And you know, all along the way, they're trying to undermine her success. Because they never did like this little black girl from Compton coming in and showing the entire world that black people are just as good, if not better, at tennis than anybody. I mean, how insulting. But then my mind went like, where does she go from here? I mean, she can control whether or not. I believe she has enough juice, enough influence, and enough power to determine whether or not this Carlos Ramos guy has ever serves or whatever. I don't even know enough about tennis. I don't know, was he a line coach? What the hell is he? I don't know. Don't care. But he'll never be on another court with her, a tennis court with her ever again. I believe she has enough juice to pull that, and she should. There's a video that surfaced of this guy, same guy, doing the same thing to Venus, her sister, Serena's sister. But again, I mean, this is at the highest level. This stuff plagues you no matter where. There's people who are always sitting by waiting for the chance to undermine all of your successes that you worked hard for all of your life, every step of the way, coming out from adversity, working twice as hard as anybody else, being twice as good just to get half as much. And you have some of those same privileged people sitting back waiting for the opportunity to look at you and say, you didn't really earn it. When in actuality, you worked twice as 3-4 times as hard as anybody else just to get where you are. That's what's so insulting. The countless hours that Serena put into this. That's what's so insulting. And then to have people just sit back and say, oh, she was cheating. And then if they don't want to say that she's cheating, or they will say that she was cheating, and they'll say that she had a meltdown. Obviously, the entire sexist component to it, which makes it even more amazing when I see women siding with the umpire, with the chair umpire. I had to go and look it up. Like I said, I don't know anything about tennis. I just know everything about this type of scenario. It blows me away to see women siding with this chair umpire, fining her or penalizing her rather for verbal abuse when she barely raised her voice when she called him a thief. Now, I've seen enough tennis to know I've seen guys get in the face of these umpires and let them have it. But alas, it's surprising, but not surprising with so many things, particularly with conservatives, that I've said all over the last few weeks. It's surprising, but it's not surprising. You see them do it. You fully expect them to do this, but still, it still takes you aback because of their unmitigated gall to do some of the things that they do. Similarly, these women who side with this umpire who took her tone when she called him a thief, which was as gentle as anyone could say the word thief, and he said, "Oh, it's verbal abuse." And you have women lined up siding with this umpire. It's shocking, but it's not shocking because underneath it is a worldview, literally a worldview. I guarantee you this divides along political ideology. Say what you want to, it does. This is not to say that you won't find this problematic trope in, let's say, liberal circles and progressive circles, because you absolutely do find this problematic trope in these, and that trope being limiting the voices of black people. And anytime a black person is in so much as just breathes a heavy sigh, they're seen as intimidating and angry. Oh, that stuff occurs. That's a bipartisan issue. Yeah. I could tell you more, but I guess I couldn't tell you more without just like spilling all the beans that I've been holding for a while. But anyway, that's the experience. And I know for a fact that it's the experience of women in general, this is why it blows me away that there are women who would look at this story and be like, "Oh, she should apologize." And I'm like, are you going to apologize for that very pleasant email that you sent that your boss said you were being too aggressive for? Because it's the exact same scenario. Or are you going to apologize when you finally did raise your voice a little bit, like Serena did when she said, "I've never cheated"? You know, of course, that intensity and that fierceness. What do you expect to get from somebody performing at that high level on a national stage? Do you understand the amount of adrenaline and sheer intensity that's running and coursing through her veins at that moment? And you expect her to say, "I've never cheated in my life"? Please. She wouldn't be at that level if she didn't respond that way. With that intensity, with that fierceness. They want docile Negroes. What my friend, so many people say that. I don't have to cite that. They want you to be docile. And you can see this. I mean, I was going to give an example of this show on Facebook, this Facebook Live show called Daily Blast Live. But I don't feel like going through all their videos to actually play the example. So if you want to find it, you could go and sort through. They have like hundreds of videos, but there was one that came across my timeline that had a heated confrontation between this white guy and a black woman. And the black woman literally was measured. Every word was measured and calm. And she had a single inflection in her voice. Meanwhile, the white guy was huffing and puffing. He slammed his hands on the desk. But when it came down to it, the white guy accused her, who had been measured with every word, every syllable, and she merely had one inflection in her tone. White dude accused her of being aggressive. I wanted to jump through that computer screen and show that pretentious prick what aggressive really was. I want to show this dude what aggressive was so bad, because I'm like, this is exactly what black people go through every single day, especially black women. Don't believe me? I don't care. Debate your mama. I've seen it too many times. Too many times. And now I think, and again, the show is called Daily Blast. Save your time. You know, it's not really worth it. If it comes across your timeline, then sure, click on it. But now, the latest video that went viral is of the same white guy debating the NFL and taking a knee with the black comedian. And it's just infuriating because the black guy is sitting there docile, not getting into the debate, not even speaking his points. And meanwhile, the smug grin on this white guy, I guess he had got his way. The black woman was gone from the set. You know, I think she was upstairs doing something else. But the point is this, is like, that is exactly what we go through all the time. All the time. Ask any black person, if you are tired of me talking about race, if you're tired of me talking in what you call identity politics, I want you to just take a survey of your own. Ask your black friends, if you have any, and ask, because if you have some, then chances are you're not tired of me talking about this stuff because you already know the answer. But for those of you who are tired of me discussing this type of stuff, I want you to ask them, have they ever had to just be quiet because people portray them as an angry black woman or an angry black man? Just ask them. That's just the setup. You don't even have to be specific. That's the setup, because they're going to give you more examples than you can handle. And then ask some of your political friends and realize that this is occurring in progressive circles, just like liberal circles, just like conservative circles. The big difference here is, and this is where maybe black people, we are the dummies, because conservative circles, at least they're paying you good money. They're going to pay you good money to be their token black person. Of course, you can't speak up and really speak your mind. Candace Owens would never be able to speak her mind. She's just paid really, really well to suffer some of the same things that black folks on the liberal side, on the progressive side, have to suffer through. You know, obviously, it's different because she's fighting for the destruction of mankind with stupidity. Can't even tell the difference between climate change and the forecast for the next day. But I digress. There are clearly differences. But on our side of the equation, we're fighting these fights because we're passionate about it, because we believe in it, and we're making less money than our counterparts and doing the same exact thing for the same business. And yet we're experiencing the same things in progressive circles and liberal circles, the silencing of black people through the trope of angry black men and angry black women. I just challenge you, if you're really tired of me discussing this, ask some of your friends about how they've experienced this in corporate America and how they have experienced this in politics. That's it. See you guys tomorrow. Take care.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog and join the Progressive Army.